Welcome to this deep dive into one of the most transformative tools in modern law enforcement, police body-worn cameras. In this video, we'll explore how body cameras are reshaping accountability and transparency in policing, and the challenges that come with this groundbreaking technology. We'll also discuss the broader implications of integrating body cameras into law enforcement, from public access to footage to concerns about privacy, bias, and surveillance. With the growing adoption of these tools, including in 16 of the 20 largest police departments in the United States, their impact on criminal justice reform is becoming increasingly evident. Stay with us as we unpack key insights from the 2015 Data and Civil Rights Conference, where experts across fields, law enforcement, technology, civil rights, and government, came together to explore how technology is shaping the future of justice. If you're interested in how these tools are used, their successes and their limitations, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss videos like this one.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brent Berkeley. I work for TASER. I'm a former prosecutor and worked for the National District Attorneys Association for quite a while before I came to TASER. What they asked me to do today is essentially tell you what's on the market relating to body cameras. There's a lot of discussion that has been going on. Body cameras are not new. TASER, just as one company through our Axon brand, has been making body cameras or some sort of police camera for about the last 5 years. But certainly the discussion has really blown up over the last 18 months since Ferguson and with Baltimore and the other incidents around the country. The issue of body cameras and the perspective of what these devices can do to record police-citizen interactions has become probably one of the largest police law enforcement and prosecution discussions that we've had in the last 10 years or so. So what are they? What can they do? Essentially, a body camera is what it sounds like. It's a camera that a police officer wears somewhere on their uniform that can record an interaction between citizens and law enforcement. And one of the things that we talk about a lot from our perspective as a vendor, and that law enforcement and prosecutors talk as well, is the idea of the type of videos that you'll see. Because I could ask right now, how many of you in this room do not have a device in your pocket that could record this incident right now? Who does not? I'm going to ask the question. Who doesn't? One. All right. She's got a Nokia somewhere. It's weighing down her bag, and she's got back problems from carrying that thing around. That's about the reality of it right now, and you'll see incidents right now. You'll see them on television. We saw one yesterday about an incident in South Carolina with a student being arrested and pulled out of her desk in a classroom. So what do we see in those videos? We see what happens after an incident goes bad. After something occurs and an arrest is being made, force, justifiable or not, is being applied, and that's what we see. What we do not see is what happened before. We have no idea what happened before in the incident with that officer and with that individual in the classroom. Was the officer justified? I don't know. We'll find out, as the case moves forward. Was the officer not justified? Again, I don't know. We'll learn more about that as the case moves forward. But what body cameras allow the public, law enforcement, prosecution, and the courts to do is to get an idea of what happens in an entire police interaction. So the question, that they asked me to talk about is what can and can they not do? They can record what goes on, from an officer's perspective. That's what they give you. They give you the perspective of an officer from the officer out. And depending on the type of camera that they use, there are a number of different cameras that are available on the market. We are not the only vendor for body cameras. There are a half a dozen big ones. We're the leading manufacturer within the law enforcement community. We have two varieties, one that an officer will mount on their chest, which is the cheapest one, that gives you like a 135-degree view of what's going on in front of the officer. Benefits to that are it's right there. It's easy. It's difficult to knock off. It's easy to record. The downside of them, as you may have seen in some, is that if a weapon, whether it be a taser less lethal weapon or a firearm, is deployed in this manner, that's going to block the view of that camera, and all you're going to see is the back of the officer's hand and the back of the officer's weapon. That's a downside. We have another version, I think we're probably the only ones that make them, is what we call our flex camera, which is mounted on an epaulette. It can be mounted on a hat, or it can be mounted on a pair of glasses that sees the officer's point of view from their head. That has a 75-degree field of view, so it gives you a more condensed field of view, but it gives you a much better viewpoint of what the officer is seeing at any time. It's not blocked by a weapon, non-lethal or otherwise. The biggest problem well, there's two major problems with those. I mean, cameras are cameras. You can go to Best Buy, you can buy a GoPro and strap it on an officer, and there you've got a body camera. The big question is, what do you do with the data after the recording is stopped? A couple issues that we'll talk about, I'm sure, today is what about confidential and private information? What does an officer do, and how do they manage that data when they respond to a domestic violence dispute at a private home? They go inside and they see private things inside the home. How do they redact that information? Even something as simple as investigating a traffic crash, and what happens? If anybody's ever been involved in that, you know what happens. Officer says, okay, you witnessed this crash that occurred. You were standing out here on 6th and C, and you saw two cars collide. What's your name? What's your address? What's your phone number? Date of birth, all that kind of stuff, so they can contact you in case you're needed for court. How do the law enforcement agencies manage that data so that that is not subject to a FOIA request, or that doesn't get out to an individual who doesn't need that? There's also the question of what happens if you have, for example, a domestic violence, sexual assault victim who doesn't want to speak if they're on camera? Or what if they're worried that because they're a victim of a stalking case and that their stalker is going to get a hold of that video as either part of discovery or part of a FOIA request, and their stalker finds out where they are? Those are huge issues that have to be addressed by policy from the law enforcement agency perspective, as well as from the prosecution agency perspective, prior to deployment of body cameras. So there has to be the ability to redact. There has to be the ability to easily review, and policies about when those things get released and when they get retained and not released. The other big thing, and this is really more of a government concern, is how do you pay for all this? This is an expensive process, and not just the cameras themselves, but as well as the data. My time is up, but those are just some of the issues that we've got. There's two of us here from TASER, happy to answer your questions. We've even got some cameras you can look at if you want to. So thanks.
Thank you for joining us in this detailed exploration of how police body-worn cameras are transforming modern law enforcement and criminal justice. This technology has sparked important conversations about transparency, accountability, and the balance between public safety and individual rights. We've covered the successes, challenges, and limitations of body cameras. But the story doesn't end here. The use of technology in policing is evolving rapidly, and it's critical that we stay informed and engaged. Whether it's the promise of body cameras to hold officers accountable, the concerns about restricted public access to footage, or the broader implications of surveillance tools in marginalized communities, these issues deserve our continued attention. Now, we want to hear from you. What's your perspective on the impact of body-worn cameras? Do they represent a step forward in building trust between police and the public? Or are there risks and challenges that still need to be addressed? Share your thoughts, questions, and ideas in the comments section below. Your voice matters in this important conversation.